the topic of the what Elite Zero mentioned about Pahlavi being forced on him. From a non-Iranian, I look at what happened in Libya when I was at university at the time, and I were with a lad, I forget his name, and before Gaddafi were taken out, he basically said you can't bring democracy to Libya because once you take out um, Gaddafi, it says you've got five, maybe seven different tribes that are all going to be fighting for power, and that's exactly what happened. Uh, with regards to the what's going to happen after the IRGC are gone, during that period, you're going to need a strong authority. It's basically an anchor because, like Libya, we don't want to see Iran fall into chaos with all these potentially different warring factions that may or may not emerge once the IRGC has been taken out. So, for a short period of time, like people have said, Pahlavi's the man that everyone believes and trusts will be that transition of power from 47 years of brutal dictatorship to a little bit of authoritarianism for a short period and then transition to a steady government again. But in order to get from totalitarian back to a sense of normality, if you look at World War II, what happened to Germany after the Nazis fell, there were, we had we imposed a certain type of de-radicalization on the German population for a short period of time. I think it was called the Marshall Plan, something like that, and that, in today's terms, could be seen as dictatorial. But to go from some at that extreme back to something normal, it's like any kind of trauma. You need a steady transition in between, and for the people of Iran, it's going to be His Royal Highness King Pahlavi. So yeah, but like mentioned, it's going to eventually, hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to eventually be what the people want, a parliamentary governing body. But in the meantime, it's going to be somebody who the people want, and essentially what the people are going to need to get through the trauma of the 47 years of brutal Islamic dictatorship, and then the euphoria and the anticipation of what comes next once that's gone. You need a strong central sovereign figurehead to stop things from falling into chaos. So yeah, in response to I think I've got that right. That's what I'm perceiving
So,
from outside looking in.
let
So
me tell
yeah,
you what
the apology earlier on, and then just that little take. So
so the current plan is a transitional government is not um, dictatorial just because we haven't had elections.
no,
It-
but
it-
it'll be to a certain extent. It'll stop the Islamic stuff from re-emerging again. It'd have to be a little bit more forceful than like a democracy would be.
it's
So
no, I mean, a democracy should enforce the rule of law very aggressively. I think um, a lot of people think enforcing the rule of law aggressively is undemocratic. I think not enforcing the rule of law is undemocratic. I think there's no contradiction between being aggressive when it comes to enforcing the rule of law, and being having democratic values go hand in hand. They don't contradict each other. You need to enforce the rule of law to protect democracy, right?
of
And
course, yeah, but that's what you're gonna get eventually. But there's going to be a short period between this totalitarian
so
dictatorship of the IRGC and that there's going to be a period where a little bit more authority is going to be asserted to stop that leftist
I
Islamic.
wouldn't say there would be more at the beginning. I would say there would be more after. right? Because you're going to enforce the anti-jihadi forces more after, because we're going to have a bigger army after. So because we're going to be able to afford a bigger army, better police, so I think the enforcement will increase once we after we have the elections. It wouldn't decrease, it would increase, hopefully, because what's the point of being able to pay for a bigger military and a bigger police force if we're not going to use it, right, against jihadi terrorists? But the thing that people might think that might the level of enforcement doesn't make it democratic or undemocratic. What people usually say when they want to say the transitional period is undemocratic is that the people in charge are people who haven't been voted for yet during the transition. Nobody has voted for the people in charge. And people are like, oh, the transitional government is undemocratic because nobody voted for these people. The problem is that you cannot hit the ground and then be like, oh, here's ballots on day one. You have to the
No,
point.
that's what I
Let,
mean.
let me let, me finish my point.
Sorry, go on.
So
Yeah.
the point of the transitional government is to create the conditions so we could have elections, right? To create the conditions where there's some level of safety and stability, and then we could have different parties come out and say this is what we represent. We, the no, like nobody that knows anything about the history of politics would suggest. I'm not saying it's against you. I'm saying about people, because I know there's a lot of leftists say like, oh, look at the Iran Prosperity Project. The Pahlavi and his team are saying that we're going to be in charge. Who put you in charge? Nobody voted for you. Well, if then nobody can be in charge, because nobody. Then we should just have let chaos rule, right? We should just let everything be chaotic, because it's impossible for us to have somebody in charge that has been elected on day one, right? That's why we call it transitional. The point of transitional is to create the conditions where we could have elections. If we already had elections at the beginning, it wouldn't be transitional, right? And that's
No,
that's what.
that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's what I was saying. Before you get to that transition period, you're going to need, and this is why people are choosing Pahlavi as their figurehead. You're going to need somebody with that authority to stop everything from dissolving into chaos between what is now and that transitional government. So yeah, initially you're going to have stricter laws against the leftist, Islamist kind of thinking in order to instill that system that's breaking away from this dictatorship that allowed this dictatorship to take root in the first place. So yeah, it's like the French. It's going to be like the French Revolution. Unfortunately, that went a little bit too far. There were, and the opposite is what happened in Libya. There were nobody in charge once they got rid of Gaddafi, and it dissolved into all-out anarchy and different tribes fighting for power and what have you. Whereas this time,
All
the
right.
reason
Let me
why
just
people
quickly say,
chose Pahlavi.
I do think if the French Revolution is not a good model. I think Prince Reza Pahlavi and his team are trying to avoid bloodshed, like a bloodbath like that. Like they're trying to, I really, really trying to avoid a bloodbath like that. That's not the ideal thing that they're hoping for. Um, I do also want to just quickly talk about the Gaza comment. I don't, um, I don't think like saying that having a Tesla factory in Gaza is genocidal talk, especially because it produces a lot of jobs for people. Maybe
No,
they think like
it would
that.
a joke. It
No,
was
I know,
just a
I know.
joke.
I'm joking as well. I'm joking as well. But I'm just saying that I think it's offensive because um, that is like that is Gaza is like right on the beach. Like that is supposed to. It would be a waste to turn it into Tesla factories or parking lots. I think that should be Gaza should turn into a tourist destination with hotels, maybe a Trump hotel, bars and dancing and singing on the beach. That would be the most ideal thing to do, Gaza. So I'm offended for different reasons. I think it would be a
Yeah,
waste
but
of land.
imagine how satisfied and motivated the workers in them Tesla factories are going to be when they know full
There's
well that they
better,
can
there are
step
better
out,
places. There are
step
better
out for the
places for
signal
Tesla
break.
factory. You could go. There's like deserts right next to you. This is a beach property. Why would you waste good beach property and put a Tesla factory there? Just go a little bit inland and build it over there. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
we
know.
can have a
Okay, we'll
debate about that another time if you
yeah.
like.
Well, yeah, guys.
Just annoy,
Well, let's have a
annoy all the
create a
lefties.
panel. What should we do with Gaza once we liberate it from Hamas? We could have a panel on that.
My name is Armin Navabi. I'm an Iranian political analyst with decades of experience fighting the Islamic regime inside and outside of Iran. Make sure you follow me for more, and also make sure you join our discussion group. I'm there almost every single day. Come talk to me there and the rest of the people there in our group calls. It's a great place to meet and talk to people who like talking about politics. The link is in the description and or in the bio. You could also get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. See you there.